All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another Gridiron Expert live stream. As we, always say, man, I'm telling you, Tuesdays and Wednesdays for most people, it is a pretty monotonous, boring day. Nothing much to look forward to. But for us, I'm ready for Tuesday night. I'm ready for Wednesday night because I am ready to talk some college football, especially with the best fans and the best community on YouTube. The GE Nation, baby. You really can't top that. You cannot top that. So we are pumped. We're excited. And, God, we've got so much to talk about. I mean, we've got only a couple set topics today, but the goal today is to take your questions in the chat, to go through as many calls as we can tonight, talk ball, whether it's from the madness that we just witnessed in Week 6. I mean, some big-time wins, guys, big-time upsets, narrow victories, another unbelievable college football weekend, or previewing what's coming up this next weekend. As Steven says, Steven, good to see you. We got some big games this Saturday. We have 6 ranked versus ranked matchups. So let's think about that for a second. 2 weeks ago, week 5, we were all hyped because we had 5 ranked versus ranked matchups, which was the most in one weekend since 2017. So 5 years it took us to get to that point. To break that record, it took us 2 more weeks. Week 5 to week 7. Now we've got 6 ranked versus ranked matchups. How about that? I mean, you can't top that. You can't top that. And that's just the ranked versus ranked matchups, which, again, we're going to have individual videos out for every single one of those games. But today, we released our 5 underrated games. So 5 games that still play a major role in conference races, games that could still play a major role in the playoff race, games that are just going to be fun and entertaining to watch. Whether you've got a dog in the fight or not, games that are going to be just a lot of fun and add to the excitement, add to the madness that we're going to witness on Saturday. So I believe the week starts, tomorrow? Tomorrow or Thursday, I believe the week starts. I know Thursday we have Baylor and West Virginia. That'll be the kind of marquee matchup on Thursday. Runs all the way through Saturday. It's going to be another fantastic weekend of college football. And we're pumped to get to talk about it with you guys tonight and tomorrow, and to produce these videos for you over these next few days as well. Again, today we posted Penn State, Michigan. Tomorrow we're posting Tennessee, Alabama. Talk about a game of the week, number 3 and number 6. Could the Tide lose? You'll find out tomorrow. And then 2 videos both on Thursday and Friday to get you through all the way to Saturday. So we could not be more excited and more happy to be doing that. So quick shout outs before we really get going tonight. SBO Kennels, good to see you, my man. Salute Gridiron Nation. I love it. Good to see you, man. Eddie Rose, good to see you. I'm going to get to your question here soon. South Tex, good to see you. Congrats on the big win. I know you said you're excited to call in tonight, and we will make sure to get you on the line tonight for sure so we can talk about UCLA and their huge win over Utah and what it means for them in the Pac-12, because with that win, Utah is out of the playoff race, and really to me it's a 3-team race now in the Pac-12 when it comes to playoff hopes, and that's of course UCLA, USC, and Oregon still in that mix. No conference losses, only lost to Georgia back in week 1. So UCLA has Oregon coming up. We know that. They still have to play USC. Oregon does not play USC in the regular season, so it's going to be interesting how the next few weeks fare for the Pac-12, but congrats again on a huge, huge win. And I know you were there, so I'm excited to kind of hear about that atmosphere and talk about that team. But again, thanks for being here. Stephen Cuffey, good to see you again. He says, I'm so happy you signed up for the expert picks for college and for pro. So he bought the expert picks combo package right there for that $60. Again, one of the lowest prices in the entire country, guys. $60 for a year, a full 365 days. Some guys are charging you $60 for their Saturday picks only. $60 a day. We go, $60 for a year. And Steven joined our team last week, helped us get one step closer to our goal, which again, if we reach that goal, we're doing a 24-hour live stream. We're going to do a lot of fun stuff here on the channel. If we reach that goal, Steven came through clutch with that and won with that. We had another big week, hitting both 60% of our bets, both in college and NFL. College and NFL, we hit over 60% of our bets this last weekend. So we're doing extremely well on both fronts. And Steven, we appreciate you and all your support. Glad you subscribed. Glad you got to take advantage of them. Glad you're happy with them. And so just share the word, my man. Spread the word. And tell them, come join our team. Come sign up for those expert picks. It's never too late to join them. It gets us one step closer to our goal, and you win from them. You win with the picks. It's a win-win for everybody. So, Stephen, we appreciate you. Austin Pruitt, I appreciate you. And Robert Sharpton, good to see you as well. Yes, congratulations on your win as well with Georgia taking down Auburn in a big-time fashion. So, happy to have you guys all here. And for you guys that are watching now, might be watching later, because I know sometimes it's hard to catch us on Tuesday and Wednesday nights. We're just thrilled to have you as a part of our GE Nation. Thrilled to have you as part of the discussion. And yeah, guys, I always say, guys, we're building something really special here. We're really building something really special. And there's no better place to come to talk football and just build a community than right here at the Gridiron Expert. So, a couple things we want to address before we open up the phone lines to get your calls and your questions and comments. I want to address Eddie's question real quick. Do you think Missouri should hire an offensive coordinator this offseason? Eli Drinkwitz's play calling is terrible, and he should start his 4-star quarterback next season. Eddie, I'll tell you, that's going to be if Eli Drinkwitz is around next season. I mean, and I think I guess there's something to be said for moral victories. I mean, they almost beat Auburn. They almost beat Georgia. They almost beat Florida. I mean, so many close losses that as a Missouri fan, I know it's getting frustrating, and I agree the play calling is horrible. And the fact of the matter is, if Missouri keeps losing, and how many wins they have right now? 2, 3? So if they, keep losing, they only manage to win 4 or 5 games, miss out on a bowl game, could end up costing him. I know he's recruiting well, and they don't want to let him go because they fear losing those recruits, but it's going to be very, very interesting. But bottom line, Eddie, yes, he does need to hire an offensive coordinator. And a lot of other teams in the SEC need to do the same thing. The Best Savage, my man, thank you so much for that. I appreciate it for that super chat, man. It goes a long ways, I'm telling you. Hooks us up, goes a long way, and we really, really appreciate that. Love the channel. Thoughts on LSU Florida? Let's dive into it. I'll tell you this. This is not the matchup we thought we'd have back in the preseason, right? I mean, LSU Florida traditionally is a top 25 matchup. Typically has some sort of high stakes, it's a conference game, but they're in separate divisions. So could play a role in whether Florida go to the SEC championship, LSU goes to the championship. But this year, obviously, that's not a factor for either. It's just not. But what is a factor, what it is at stake, is the fact that both of these teams' schedules are getting very, very tough after that game. LSU still has yet to play. They've got, I think, Ole Miss after Florida. So they've got Ole Miss. They've got Alabama. They've still got Arkansas and Fayetteville. Arkansas not great, but in Fayetteville could be a problem there. Florida still has LSU. They've still got A&M in College Station. They still have Georgia. So this is a big win for both in trying to get one step closer to bowl eligibility and to help both their coaches. Because Brian Kelly, people aren't very high on him. Following that beat down to Tennessee. And obviously Billy Napier in his two first-year head coaches. I'm going to tell you this, the Best Savage, who's been here for a long, long time. We appreciate you and all your support, man. I'm picking Florida. I'm sticking with Florida. I know you, and I'm not just saying that because you're a Gators fan, right? I really am. I picked Florida back in the preseason. I'm sticking with that now. I really, really think that LSU just isn't that good. They really aren't. Discipline-wise, it's not there for them. The defense has actually surprised me more than I thought they would. The secondary hasn't been horrible, but it's a night game in the swamp. It's going to be one of the more tough environments LSU has faced this season. I mean, when was the last big road game for them? Auburn? Auburn's not even that good. I mean, Florida is better than Auburn, in my opinion. So you're going to the swamp at night against a dual-threat quarterback and against a Florida defense that hasn't been as bad as people want to say they are. So I like Florida in that game. Very low spread. I know a lot of people are jumping on the LSU bandwagon. I'm not sold on Jaden Daniels. I know he had 300 yards against Tennessee, but again, a lot of that coming because they were down for the entirety of the game. They were down 10-0, 4 minutes in. So obviously you're going to kind of abandon your game plan and try to move the ball more through the air. So I like Florida in that game. I think the defense is able to shut down Jaden Daniels. I think Anthony Richardson has a decent game. I think they're able to gash LSU enough on the ground. And you can't help but wonder, too, LSU, how they're going to respond after such a beatdown at home. So you get annihilated at home, embarrassed at home, which is something that never happens in Death Valley. Now you're going on the road to the swamp. It just isn't a good combination for me. So I love Florida in that game. So again, not just saying that because you're a Gator fan, but I hope you like that pick and that analysis there. And again, thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate it. He goes, I love to hear it. Go Gators. They give us problems, but a nighttime game in the swamp. I like Gators 27-23. Amazing analyzing football, dude. Appreciate it, man. I will be watching that game close, and I hope we're able to talk about it with you next week as well. I really do. So I'll be watching that close and hope my pick's right, and therefore I'm rooting for your team. You know, nothing against LSU, but I am rooting for your team on Saturday. So I'm pumped for it. Sarah Brown says, Robert, the Dogs played a great game. I think you like two different dogs. I think Robert's a Georgia fan and Sarah's a Mississippi State fan, but regardless, both played a great game and both got big wins. So congrats to both of them. My man Dave is with us tonight. Hey Dave, how's it going, man? He's got the Yankees on in the background. Let me know if it's too loud. So if he calls in, that's going to be why. But yeah, we're ready, man. MLB playoffs going to town this week. Mariners just lost in heartbreaking fashion to the Astros. That was crazy. Full disclosure, I was rooting for the Mariners. I really was. You kind of have to. They're kind of the big underdog this year, right? I mean, haven't made the playoffs since 2001. So I was rooting for the Mariners. They lost. I'm a Cardinals fan. They blew it to the Phillies. So it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be a very interesting kind of, path to the World Series for a lot of these teams. I mean, I feel like a Yankees, Astros, ALCS is almost inevitable at this point. What happens in the National League is going to be more interesting to me. Phillies and Braves. Phillies won that game at Game 1 over the Braves, so they're kind of an underdog and kind of a team that's sneaking by. And then, God, who's in the other one? Who's that? Dodgers and Padres. That was interesting, too. Padres upsetting the Mets. So it's an interesting year in the playoffs. But congrats, Dave, on the Yankees. We'll be rooting for them as well, hoping they can get in there. It's been a while since they've been in the World Series, so we'd love to see them get back. Roman, do I think Tennessee will end the streak versus Alabama? Find out tomorrow. Tomorrow at 1 p.m. Central Time, we are releasing our prediction for Tennessee and Alabama. Really excited to get that one out there. By far the game of the week. So, Roman, you've asked that question for a long, long time, and you will finally get your answer tomorrow. Make sure to leave a comment when you're there as well. Let's see. Eugene Murphy, good to see you. Mike Myrick, good to see you, man. Go Noles. Let's go, baby. Big game against Clemson on Saturday. Pumped for that one. That was on one of our top 5 games on the whiteboard this morning. And actually could see Florida State give Clemson a tougher test than some think. So excited for that one, Mike. And appreciate you and all your support for being here, man. Christian Martinez, same for you. And Anthony James, same for you. All the way out west, baby. Pac-12 Nation. But he says GE Nation. Let's represent. I love it. Real quick, guys, we're going to take tons of questions and comments from the chat. We always catch up on those. We're going to touch on them, by the end of the night. Trust me, your questions and comments will not go unnoticed. I can promise you that. We will open up the lines to get to that as well, so we can have phone calls and the chat. But we had one talking point that I wanted to touch on today that might actually generate some good discussion. So, and we'll see how blurry this picture is. I don't know. But the college football playoff, right? We know we're expanding that to 12 teams here in the next few years. Could be as early as 2024, 2025, who knows? But I think every now and then here on the live streams, we're going to sit down and we're going to kind of look at what a 12-team playoff would look like in the moment. So we're about halfway through the season right now. We've played 6 weeks. We're entering week 7. Teams play 12 games, obviously, before championships and bowl games and things like that. So based on our rankings, based on the GE Top 25 that we released on Sunday night, what would a 12-team playoff look like? So that's what we're going to look at here for a second. And keep in mind, we kind of went through and predicted the teams to go all the way to the championship. We're not predicting those games now, right? We did it just for the sake so you could see how the playoff would be structured, okay? But here we go. Let's take a look at that. And this might be a little bit blurry, but I think it's kind of clear for the most part. The GE 12-team playoff based on our rankings right now. Our top 25 that we released on Sunday. Now remember, the way this is structured is the top 4 conference champions, highest ranked conference champions get a bye week. Okay? The highest ranked conference champions get a bye week, top 4. The other 2, so the other Power 5 conference that champion, whoever that may be, and the highest ranked group of 5 team, if they weren't in the top 4, will get placed in the other 8. Okay? And then there's 6 at-larges. All right, so if you look at that, based on our rankings, we had Alabama at number 1, the number 1 seed, SEC champion. Then we've got number 2, Ohio State. They were in our rankings, Big Ten champion. In our rankings, Georgia is number 3. But obviously, we have them falling to Alabama. Just hypothetical here, have them losing to Alabama in the SEC championship. So Georgia would be the 5 seed, would be the, basically if you're looking at a bracketology standpoint, highest ranked team, first team out of that top 4. They're 3rd, but not a conference champion, therefore they're 5th. That makes sense. Clemson was 4th in our rankings, ACC champion, coming at number 3. And then Oklahoma State is in at number 4. They would get that first round bye. They're 7th in our rankings, but they are the highest ranked team out of the Big 12 in our rankings. The teams above them, such as Tennessee, Michigan, and Georgia, all based on our rankings would not have won their conference. So if that makes sense, Oklahoma State gets it. Georgia in at 5, Michigan at 6, and then it kind of ends up falling into place there. Michigan at 6, Tennessee at 7, Oregon at 8. And remember, those first round matchups, guys, are all held on campus. So Oregon would host Penn State, Georgia would host James Madison, Michigan would host USC, and Tennessee would host UCLA. And we have James Madison in there as the 12th seed, as the highest ranked Group of 5 champion. Now, surprisingly, there's not a single Group of 5 team ranked in our latest top 25. There's not a single Group of 5 team ranked in our top 25 right now. No, there hasn't been anyone that's impressed us that much. James Madison, though, actually was 26 for us, believe it or not. So they're right on the outside looking in. So therefore, we would have them that. But unfortunately, this year, guys, James Madison can't even go bowling. They just joined the FBS. So what's unfortunate for James Madison is that they're a top 25 team right now in the AP poll. They could go undefeated. And they would not be allowed to go bowling. They would not be allowed to compete for the Sun Belt Championship. So whoever is second place in the Sun Belt Eastern Division would go to that Sun Belt Championship game and not James Madison. It's a very stupid rule, heartbreaking for the Dukes because I don't think anybody expected them to be this good. But for the sake of our playoff and for the sake of how we believe the rules should be based, James Madison will get in. So here, it's kind of interesting looking at this. You're lying to yourself if you don't look at this and go, hey, this would be pretty dang fun. And keep in mind, this is the halfway point. Who knows what it would look like at the end of the season, which we'll definitely revisit this at the end of the season. But you're lying to yourself if you would not be hyped to see Michigan host USC, for Tennessee to host UCLA, for Oregon to host Penn State, for those to be games that actually mean something in the first week of December, second week of December. That'd be unbelievable. All those on-campus games. I mean, Oregon, Penn State is a Rose Bowl type matchup. That is a Pac-12, Big Ten school that easily could have been a Rose Bowl. USC, Michigan. That's Orange Bowl caliber or Rose Bowl caliber as well. I mean, and then UCLA, Tennessee, that type of offense. I mean, look at that. Tennessee, if they beat UCLA, they would play Ohio State. Who would not want to see that game? Ohio State, Tennessee at a neutral site. Those two offenses going at it. C.J. Stroud, Hendon Hooker. I mean, talk about playing the over. I mean, the amount of points that would be scored in that game. That'd be so much fun. Michigan, Clemson easily could be the best. Georgia and Oklahoma State, two solid offenses, two teams that defenses haven't really lived up to the hype this year. Oregon and Bama. Haven't seen that one. That could have been a national championship a few years ago. We didn't see it. And the point that I'm trying to make here is, first off, these matchups would be so much fun, so entertaining. And there are a lot of people out there that say, we don't need a 12-team playoff. It's pointless. No teams deserve to be in there. We just need 4, whatever. Well, but look, go ahead and look at this, guys. Look at the semifinals. Look at your top 4 teams. Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, and Oklahoma State. I only have, and again, we're not really projecting it. It's just kind of to prove a point. 2 of the top 4 teams in the semifinals. What I'm trying to say is when it comes down to the Final 4 with a 12-team playoff, you're not always going to have the Final 4. You're just not. You're going to see upsets. I think we all can agree that right now, if they were to play on a neutral site, Georgia would probably beat Oklahoma State. The Michigan-Clemson game, probably a toss-up. But let's say Michigan does beat Clemson. You're looking at an Ohio State-Michigan game for a spot in the national championship. And before someone goes, well, wouldn't they have played each other like 3 or 4 weeks ago? Yeah, they probably would have. Probably 1, 2, 3, 4, and they have a Big Ten championship game, maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago would have been the last time Ohio State would have played Michigan. We don't have an issue with that in the NFL, do we? There are some teams in the NFL, I'm just throwing two teams out there, the Patriots and the Jets, that might play each other twice in the span of 3 weeks. Does anyone have a problem with that? No. Why should we have a problem if Ohio State and Michigan play themselves twice in the span of a month? I see no issue with that. So you would have, the game for a spot in the national championship. You would have an Alabama-Georgia semifinal and not a national championship. One of them would have to lose. The winner goes to the Natty. So, again, yes, in this scenario, Alabama still plays Ohio State. I think that was most people's pick to play in the national championship back in the preseason, but the path to get there is tougher. The playoff games are more exciting. We're not going to have, we always hype up this New Year's Eve playoff games, and everybody should watch, and these games are typically over at halftime. I don't think, looking at the first round, 3 of those 4 games would not be over at halftime. I do agree Georgia would annihilate James Madison. Looking at the second round, Georgia, Oklahoma State would be close. Michigan, Clemson would be close. Tennessee, Ohio State would be close. The only game that could be a blowout could be Alabama, Oregon, and that might surprise you. Semifinals, God, must-see TV. Ohio State, Michigan, the semifinal game is just like Duke and North Carolina in last year's Final Four. Must-see TV. So bottom line, guys, this is what our 12-team playoff would look like right now. The season ended right now based on our rankings. Based on our top 25 rankings. We didn't throw the APs up here right now. We're not a big fan of the AP, but we'll do that. We'll compare and contrast going forward as the year. We're not going to do this every week. The rankings aren't going to change that drastically, but maybe every 3 weeks or so, especially when the playoff releases their set of rankings back in, I think, later in November. We'll be touching on it then. But, who wouldn't want to see that, guys? Who wouldn't want to see it? I think it would be fun. I think it's awesome. It's fun to look at these hypothetical matchups, and looking at that should get you excited for a 12-team playoff when it comes along in a few years. And the last point I'll make on that, and then we're going to open up the phone lines, is this. A lot of people say, I'm against a 12-team playoff because we're going to see a 2 or 3 loss team get in there, right? Okay. I get your point. All right. But let's say this. I'll give you a good example right now. Let's take Baylor, for example. Let's use Baylor as an example. They are 3-2, out of the top 25 right now. No one's paying attention to them, okay? And 3-2, but they have one conference loss. So right now, they're probably out of the Big 12 title hunt. They could still work their way back in there, but they haven't played Texas. They haven't played Kansas. They've got a lot of teams they've yet to play. They're 3-2. They're out of playoff contention right now, no doubt about it. But if Baylor works their way back up and somehow finds themselves in the Big 12 championship game and wins that game, they go to a 12-team playoff. They don't get a first-round bye, more than likely, but they have a shot. So the people that are going to complain about, we're throwing that 3 or 4 loss team in there, well, sometimes you do have a 2, 3, 4 lost conference champion. Heck, if whoever wins the Big Ten West or somehow wins the Big Ten, they're probably going to have around 3 losses. Probably bound to happen. That division's insane right now. They are worthy and deserving of a shot at the playoff. They might lose first round. They might win next round and then lose to Alabama or Ohio State next round. But the bottom line is they deserve their shot. So, yes, 2 or 3 loss team might get in there, but most of them aren't going to get in there unless they're a conference champion. Bottom line. People are overreacting to that. It is, again, the 6 highest ranked conference champions and then 6 at-larges. So typically you're looking at roughly, the teams that are ranked 4th to 10th, 4th to 12th, top 15 teams. Very rarely do you see top 15 teams by season's end that have more than 2 losses. Not very often. So let's keep that in mind, put some things into perspective, and get excited for what a 12-team playoff could look like. Again, one last look here as we get ready to put in our call-in number about how fun that would be. How fun that would actually be. So, having said that, love the discussion in the chat. Love the guy. Dave, again, good to see you. The Best Savage, good to see you. Hokey for Life, good to see you as well. Robert Sharpton, we hate the AP poll. We think it's an absolute joke, and we'll continue to stay that. Jerry Turner, good to see you as well if you're still here. Very happy to have you here, my man. Big Syracuse fan, and I'm pumped for your game against NC State on Saturday. We actually will have a pick out for that on Friday, Jerry. We were having individual video for North Carolina State and Syracuse. I'm going to tell you, back in the preseason, I didn't bank on doing a full video on that. Yeah, here we are. Beauty of college football. Mike, good to see you as well. Awesome, good to see you. And all right, let's go ahead and open up the phone lines. I know we want to get South Text on there, and we'll take calls for, next hour or so, give or take, as many as we can cram in there. Eventually, we'll cut it off, but let me come over here. Got to use my phone to pin it. So give me 1 second. But boom. Our call-in number for the night, guys, 501-777-5861, and we're going to pin it. Boom. There we go. There we go. So that is our call-in number for tonight. Again, taking it from about the next hour or so. Looking forward to getting to talk with you guys about whatever questions you bring. Typically 3 to 5 minutes. Remember, we might hang up on you. It's nothing personal. We're just trying to keep the phones moving. But we're excited for this discussion, for sure. Jerry, again, he said, happy to be here. We're happy to have you. Pumped to have you, man. Hokie for life. Explain how someone ties for a ranking. Well, here's the thing. When you have a group of incompetent voters all voting on these different teams, a group of incompetent voters that don't watch enough college football like most of the people here in this chat actually do. We watch it, we study it, we analyze it, just like many of you do. When you have a group of people that do that, you get horrible rankings and you get stupid results, such as ties for rankings. Ultimately, Hokie for life, it's laziness, just like how you typically see sometimes 3 or 4 teams from consecutive conferences in a row. So, you might have 4 SEC teams in a row. If they're worthy of those rankings, sure, but a lot of times it's because it's lazy on the AP part. Or let's purposely put, trying to think, let's just use an example. Let's purposely put Duke and North Carolina right next to each other at 24 and 25 when they're going to play each other. Let's make those rankings as close as possible. So they're both ranked, and they both, they're both ranked, and they're right by each other. So it's not a drastic margin, because that looks cooler. Ooh, look how close they are there. That's what they do. So you've got a group of just idiots that are running the show, that are voting on this. Same with the College Football Playoff Committee. They don't know what they're doing. We've got, literally, the committee, guys, is made up of athletic directors that don't study much football outside of their own schools. A couple of super fans that are big advocates of the game, which means they just have money. Former politicians like Condoleezza Rice, we love throwing her in there because she should determine who goes to a New Year's Six bowl game and should make the Final Four. People that love the game, and if you believe that, I'm sorry for you, I really am, because it's just a load of crap. Bottom line, but so be it. That's what we're dealing with. We can't change it. The 12-team playoff will hopefully help that a little bit in terms of giving us better matchups and better opportunities, and hopefully not much controversy and issues going forward. We'll see how that goes. Dave says, what do you say here? Something about Garrett Cole. Garrett Cole is not worth what we paid. He gives up so many home runs. Man, I haven't even looked at the score today. I probably should have it on my iPad over here to watch it. Already down 1-0. Yeah, 1-0 to the Guardians. God, it's the Guardians. Yeah, that's who y'all were playing. That's gonna be an interesting series. Look at the potential World Series matchups, right? Like who they could be. I don't know. We're here to talk football, obviously, but I'm just looking at it. We're about to hit the perfect time for sports. If you really think about it, the World Series will begin probably end of October? Towards the end of October. World Series Game 1 is October 28th. So right at the end of the month, we're going to get the first World Series game. So we're still going to be in the heart of college football. We're still going to be in the heart of NFL. We will have World Series baseball. We've got playoff baseball right now. So you're going to have that. Hockey just started today. I don't know if anybody here is a hockey fan, but hockey just started today. NBA starts next week. So you've got football, you'll have basketball, you'll have baseball, you'll have hockey. College basketball will start at the beginning of November, which is awesome. And if you're into soccer, the World Cup starts on November 20th. So right there in the heart of basketball, football as well, hockey. So we're going to have a lot of big sports moments coming up. I mean, it's a really, really good time to be a sports fan. And there's not going to be any downtime or just, you know, you know, dull moments. And really from now until probably the end of the Super Bowl, which will be not as until like second week of February. Getting our first call here from, I believe, probably our man Nick. Let's see. Hey Nick, how's it going, man?
It's going good, bro. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. We're happy you called. We had these lines up for a little while. No one was calling, so thanks for finally calling in.
No problem, man.
So what's up, man? Yeah, let's play it on me.
My dog, man. I'm great. We beat Auburn's ass. That was gonna happen anyway. I wasn't worried about Auburn. They're terrible. But I do want to get your thoughts on. I want to switch to basketball season for college basketball. We live in Arkansas, and my grandpa is a huge big Arkansas fan, and he was just wondering, do you think Arkansas can make the Final Four this year?
Yeah, great question. So yeah, we'll answer a basketball question on here. I do, Nick. To be honest with you, tell your grandpa. Yeah, I really do. Eric Musselman at Arkansas has done a phenomenal job with recruiting, man. Not only is he great utilizing the transfer portal, but just recruiting these high schoolers. He's done a phenomenal job. I mean, Nick Smith, Anthony Black, Jordan Walsh. I mean, he's got so many big-time players. Barry Dunning, I think getting him from Alabama. So many big-time players that are coming to Arkansas from a recruiting style and from a talent standpoint, the likes that Arkansas hasn't seen since the 90s when they actually won a national championship. So, and he's one of the best coaches in the game. He knows how to utilize, he's a great recruiter. He knows how to motivate. He's got great NBA experience. I mean, Arkansas the other day had a pro day. It's October, and they had 29 of the 30, I believe, NBA teams in Fayetteville scouting out these players. So a lot of one and dones for sure. But bottom line is, I mean, he's doing a great job. And Arkansas back-to-back Elite Eights with both of those teams not being nearly as talented as the one he has this year. So they're young, but if they can come together and put those pieces together, I have no doubt they can make the Final Four.
Yeah, I do too, man. They're really talented, especially Nick Smith. He was, I think, the number one recruit in the state of Arkansas.
Yeah, Nick Smith's like number one overall recruit, like in the country.
Oh, I didn't know that. Dang.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I think Musselman. I'm pretty sure he was number one in the entire country, number two, somewhere around there. I mean, he was obviously best in the state, but then one of the best in the nation as well. So he's loading up.
There he is. I also want to get a question on this North Carolina team. Do you pretty much since they beat Miami, you think they pretty much locked down the Coastal?
Yeah, I really feel like they probably have. I'll feel better about their odds if they can survive Duke. I mean, that's a weird game. It's on the road, which I know they're like right by each other, but rivalry game there. Duke definitely better than we expected, but off that Georgia Tech line. But if they beat Duke, and I believe that they will, they're undefeated in conference play. They'll be, I think, 6-1 on the year. They're top 25 for us right now. They'll be top 25 in the AP poll by that point. I don't know who can take them down. They've already beat Virginia Tech. They've already beat Miami on the road. I know they still got to play Pittsburgh.
They own Miami.
Do what?
So they've owned Miami. This is weird because you think Miami's a more talented team than North Carolina, but
yeah, they are, and that's the thing. What that ultimately comes down to, Nick, is coaching. I mean, and I'm not, the biggest fan of Mario Cristobal, but I expected more from him. But that was just Mac Brown simply out coaching Mario Cristobal. I mean, North Carolina's defense has been so bad this year, and to hold Tyler Van Dyke and that offense to just 24 points on their home turf is impressive. It really is. So really, outside of Pittsburgh, North Carolina isn't in any danger. So unless they were to slip up to someone just unexpected, like a Georgia Tech or Duke or somebody like that, and even if they fell to Pittsburgh's already got a loss. And they're going to lose something down the road again. So I feel like North Carolina probably is going to be a representative out of the Coastal.
I do too, man. I guess especially that offense. That offense it's scary good. And the fact that Drake May ain't getting no Heisman attention is freaking crazy to me.
Yeah, it's honestly the sad thing about the Heisman, Nick, is unless you're a player on an elite team, you're not going to get the attention you deserve. I mean, the stats that Drake May is putting up are very, very impressive. And sometimes players like Drake May are putting up better numbers than a Bryce Young or a C.J. Stroud or Hendon Hooker, guys like that. But unless your team is elite and competing at a national level, you're just not going to get that attention, which is sad and wrong. But that's unfortunately how the Heisman really has become a popularity contest at this point.
Yeah, it is. And I'm calling here, man, on the Gridiron Expert, bro. I'm calling Penn State will beat Ohio State in Happy Valley.
I like it. I like it. So he's taking. Wow. All right. So is Penn State beating Michigan then?
No, they don't. They dropped that game. Michigan will win. I just had Penn State beating Ohio State.
Okay. All right. I like it then, because if that's the case, Michigan would beat Penn State. Penn State would beat Ohio State. And if Michigan were to beat, no, I'm sorry, if Ohio State were to beat Michigan in the finale, you could have all one-loss teams in the Big Ten East would develop a crazy tie-breaking scenario and would just create chaos in that division. So you know what, Nick? I love it. We're going to hold you to it, but I'm all for that upset here in a few weeks.
I am too, man. I also got matter of fact, I got UCLA beating USC. I don't think USC is gonna go undefeated. I mean, I had USC winning the Pac-12 championship, but I just don't see them going undefeated. I don't even see them making a playoff. And everybody thinks it's gonna happen. Like, it's not gonna happen.
No, USC is going to end up slipping up somewhere. Easily could be this weekend to Utah, could be to UCLA. I actually picked UCLA to beat them back in the preseason as well. So UCLA still could have a solid year, but no, they will be slipping up here in the next few weeks, no doubt about it.
I also got I'm not worried about my Georgia Bulldogs. I think we will go undefeated. I know Tennessee's a really good team. I give Tennessee their props. They're really, really good on offense, really good. But their defense and their pass defense is terrible. Like, their secondary is probably worse than Arkansas. It's that bad. I don't see them. I pretty much see us still winning the East. I think that Mississippi State game, though, I still think that's a toss-up, but not likely. Because to me, it's like Mississippi hasn't played anybody yet. Just my personal opinion.
Yeah, let me answer that on the normal chat. We're getting a call from Kansas here, so I'm going to take that one, but I'll answer your call. I'll answer that part right here on the stream.
All right, bro.
I appreciate you, Nick. Have a good night, man.
You too, man.
All right, so we're getting a call from Kansas. I know. I think we missed it right there at the end. So whoever that was, give us a call back. And in the meantime, to answer Nick's question there and to answer his what he was saying about Georgia, he's a Georgia fan. He was like, "Look, I still feel good about winning the East. Yes, they still got to play Tennessee. Yeah, we still got to play Mississippi State, but I feel good about our chances because Tennessee's secondary is so bad. Mississippi State hasn't played anybody. By the time that Georgia plays Mississippi State, the Bulldogs will have played multiple people. You know, they've got a game against Kentucky on the road this week. That'll be a good test for them. They've got Alabama next week. So they'll be more battle tested since that game's not until later in November. But Georgia is going to face two very pass-heavy teams in Tennessee and Mississippi State. And Georgia, you know, is still a top three team. They're the number one in the country right now, right? But bottom line is, I could see them slipping up to somebody in the regular season. I really could. And let me tell you something, guys. It's going to be really interesting to see if Tennessee upsets Alabama this Saturday. Because if they do, talk about chaos. Talk about chaos across the country. They knock off Alabama. Tennessee becomes a top 3 team in the country. And we'll touch more on that in a second. We're finally getting our caller from Kansas. I do want to get them on the phone.
To accept, press 1.
Hey, Christian, how's it going, man?
Hey, not much. I love your channel, man. I've been watching for a few years now. Glad to finally call.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, thanks for all the support. We're thrilled to get you on. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, hey, I was thinking this the other day. What's your opinion on having our preseason ranking from now on being the ranking of the postseason of the year before? So, like, you know, if K-State was ranked 13 at the end of the year, the next year they'd be 13 in the preseason. What's your opinion on that?
Wow, yeah, it's interesting. That would be pretty. That would be pretty interesting. The only issue that I would have with that is obviously so much changes in the offseason. And clearly I'm not a fan of the preseason polls by any means. I mean, clearly they're preseason polls for a reason. I know that's how the season starts, but they're so drastic by season's end. And I think a lot of times especially the AP, and we're human. They're human. They put a lot of stock into certain teams that got a new coach or take USC for example. USC started as a top 15 team to start the season, and the only reason they got to do that was because they added Lincoln Riley, they added Caleb Williams, Jordan Addison. They had so many transfers and new coach. They were 4-8 the year before. So we put a 4-8 team in 2021 to top 15 because they added a new coach and a bunch of players that we'd never seen play together, and so that was wrong. That was wrong. But the problem is if you end it with the end of the season, make that the preseason. Take a team like Kansas State. Say this year, like you said, let's say they end number 13, something like that. But then they lose a lot of people. They lose the majority of their team. Let's just say. They definitely would not be the 13th best team in the country to start the year. Would it end up canceling out? Would it end up all working itself out? By the end of the year, after a few weeks, probably. But I feel like it would almost kind of defeat the purpose.
Yeah, I can see that. I just kind of make it I'd want it to be they earn that ranking. If USC is this really good team, like they have been so far, it'll work itself out and they'll make themselves into the top 25, not just start there just because they're supposed to be good,
Yeah, I think.
I don't know.
No, go ahead.
I mean, yeah, I was just saying, I just want the teams to earn their ranking, basically, not just because, they have a big name or, just because they're supposed to be good. I would just USC for that example, too. They're 5-0 right now, I believe 6-0 maybe. So, yeah, they'd be, top 10 in the rankings right now. Even if they started unranked, I would think they would be in the top 10 for how dominant they've been, but I don't think they needed that extra help from the preseason ranking, but
yeah,
that's just my opinion on it.
No, and I do agree with that. I mean, because it goes both ways, right? Like you've got a team like that, using the USC example, a team that if we based it off of your model and we just took it over from the preseason poll, carrying over from the year before, they would have been unranked. And I mean, I'll be honest with you, I had them unranked to start this year, and I didn't even use your model, and I had them unranked. So you're right, you have to earn it, 100%. Earn it, but also the teams that did. I mean, I'm trying to think of a good team as an example here. I'm trying to. Someone from last year that was just probably crazy good. I mean, let's take this probably isn't the best example, but like an Iowa team, right? Like Iowa was a top 25 team last year. They lost to Kentucky. In their bowl game, but still won 10 games. So say they finished the year ranked, 18th, let's say. I don't know what they were. We know Iowa's no good. They lost a lot of talent, lots of talent on the defensive side of the ball. Lost their top running back, and that we've seen that hurt them. So like the teams that were bad last year would need to earn their ranking, sure, but then the teams that were good last year and then lost everybody, whether it was coaches or players, definitely wouldn't deserve that spot. So it's kind of it's like a give and take thing. Like you can play both sides when it comes to that.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
One more quick question for you.
Yeah.
So my team's K-State. You've probably seen me comment a few times. If K-State wouldn't have lost Tulane, where do you think they'd be ranked right now?
Yeah, well, I can tell you, in my rankings, I've got them at 18th. I know. What are they ranked right now in the AP? What are they? Are they 20th?
I think they are 16.
16. Okay, I'm at 18. They got them at 16. They don't lose to Tulane. They're knocking at the top 10. They are.
That's what I would believe.
Yeah, I don't think they're in the top 10. I probably wouldn't have them in the top 10, but they'd probably be somewhere around 11th, 12th, somewhere around there.
That big Oklahoma win isn't looking so big anymore. So yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate thing. You go on the road and you beat a top 10 Oklahoma team at the time that, it's when you weigh those resumes and you weigh those wins, it's really hard to tell because I gave you a good example. Um, you know, like Oklahoma was a top 10 team. Kansas State beats them, demoralizes them. Then they go on the road, get destroyed by TCU, demoralizes them, and obviously they lose their quarterbacks, and they get destroyed by Texas. So many people would be quick to say, oh, Oklahoma wasn't that good to begin with. That Kansas State beat them, yeah, good for them, but they weren't even close to being top 10 caliber. Sure.
Right.
But if Oklahoma turns around the next week and beats TCU, are we saying that? If Dylan Gabriel doesn't get hurt, Oklahoma beats TCU, and then say they lose to Texas, but they lose by a field goal or a touchdown, are we saying Oklahoma's a bad team? Sure, they're disappointing, but are they bad? I give someone an example of that of last year. Florida really fell short of expectations. But let's keep in mind that Florida last year was within 2 points of beating Alabama in the Swamp. And that game kind of broke Florida. Really, the game that broke Florida was the loss to Kentucky. So it's one of those things where, I think a lot of times these teams are really good. They have that talent, but mentally they just collapse when they face a lot of adversity or when they lose a game they know they weren't supposed to lose, or they get blown out, or you lose a star player. They just mentally collapse. And so many are quick to say, well, for example, Kansas State's win over Oklahoma isn't that impressive because Oklahoma's not that good. Well, I mean, yeah, they have been bad, but you weigh all the other factors in there, and change is one or two things, and we're probably not saying that.
Right.
So.
Okay, well, cool. It was nice getting to talk to you.
Yeah, you too, man. Thank you for calling in, and again, thanks for all the support. We're pumped to have you, man. Really are.
Yep, no problem.
All right, our man Christian from Kansas. Glad we got to get him on the phone tonight. He was crawling forever. Couldn't get him on. Finally did. Kansas State fan, and great questions too. I mean, what say you, GE Nation, right? He had a great, interesting concept in the sense of why don't we make the preseason rankings just the exact same rankings as the final postseason rankings? When the season ends and the national championship's over, the final poll from the playoff committee, the final poll from the AP, that's where the teams are going to start the next year in the preseason. Pros and cons to that. I'd love it just because we know who's ranked already. We wouldn't have to wait till August to know who's ranked where. But also you have to factor in the the issues of the team that I give you an example at Auburn. I remember thinking this. I didn't fully have a good grasp of the rankings back when I was a younger football fan. But Auburn won the national championship in 2010, loaded with talent. Had mainly Cam Newton. That was their guy, right? So then they lose Cam Newton. So Auburn, I was always confused with that when I was younger. I said, why isn't the national champion the number one team to start the year, right? Sometimes they are. Alabama might win, and they typically are the number one team to start the year. But there's been a lot of instances where Alabama isn't. They're number 2, number 3. Or Auburn was number 1, and they started the next year down at 22nd. How does that happen? Or even in basketball, I was always confused with that. How is, a Kentucky or a Duke that wins the national championship, how are they not number 1 to start the year? Well, it's because you have to deal with the changes. They lose. Auburn lost Cam Newton and the players that led them to the national title. So they are rebuilding. That talent is not nearly as good as the talent that Alabama has or brought in, or that Georgia or Clemson, whoever it was that was at Oregon at the top of the rankings at the time. So you have to factor all those things in there. So to start, using his example, as Auburn at number 1 in the 2011 season wouldn't have made any sense because the player that got them to that number 1 point, they're gone. And again, would it have worked itself out as the year goes on? Yes, it would have. It would have slowly, plateaued. We would have gotten to the rankings where they needed to be. But what if we didn't? Auburn loses in week 1 of 2011, let's say, but they're number 1 team in the country. Okay, that boosts someone's resume, even though Auburn clearly isn't number 1. Auburn drops from 1st to 12th, still a top 12 team, wins back into the top 10 because they play a couple cupcake teams. So it's how do you judge that? And in doing so, it can boost someone's resume that maybe doesn't deserve to be boosted, can help Auburn's, it's just this whole thing. The ranking system, guys, it's complicated. It's complicated. It shouldn't be this complicated. But it is. It's crazy stuff to deal with. But great question by Christian there, and another great question about Kansas State. It's as a fan of any team, it is frustrating. I know it is frustrating to watch your team lose to a team you know you should have beat, right? So, whoa, wow, we'll get to that. Dave, my man, thank you so much. I love the custom number. I didn't even know you could do that. 11111, just straight number ones, baby. And Dave, man, thank you, thank you, thank you. Love GE and the nation. Well, we love you. We love you. You and Savage coming through clutch tonight. We're going to touch more on that. I want to get this call from California.
To accept.
There we go. We got real quick. Dave, thank you so much again, man. I'm going to keep hammering that with you so much for that. I really, really appreciate that. As Hokey for Life says, straight W's there. Straight W's and straight ones. But you're the man. We appreciate it. But we got South Text on the line. My man, what's going on? Congrats on the big win. Let's hear it. Lay it on me.
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, great win. Huge win for the Bruins. And, a lot of people, and, I hate to say it, but even you, a lot of people were sleeping on the Bruins in this game. No one believed in us, but DTR came through. He really is the reason we won that game. And Zach Charbonnet played great too at the back, but our offense is just looking explosive. I'm really loving it. And this is another game, just like last week, where it's not as close as the score looks. DTR throws a pick in garbage time. They got aggressive with the play calling. It's whatever. This game was not a 10-point game. This was This is a blowout. We blow out Utah at home, and now we get a bye week right before a huge game at Oregon. That's going to be electric. But I think there's no more excuses. You can't sleep on the Bruins anymore. This is going to be a really good year.
I don't think I could have said it any better myself, man. You hit the nail on the head there. You're right. I missed the mark on UCLA last week. I felt pretty confident in Utah. I thought they were a better team than that, and I still think they are a pretty solid team. I really do. But let me kind of mention in our recap, Utah just didn't have an answer for UCLA. And like you said, DTR came through. Charbonnet came through. I mean, over nearly close to, I think, 300 yards for DTR. Charbonnet had almost 200 rushing yards. I mean, this team is legit. And I agree with what you said about the score. I think a lot of people would go through that and go, hey, 10 points isn't bad. That should have been a 17-point win had it not been for that 80-yard pick six. I know on the record books everything goes out as 10, a 10-point win, but really in my head it's 17. If you watch the game, you realize that UCLA pretty much dominated that game from start to finish. And yeah, I mean, we do have to take them seriously as a playoff contender. We really do.
Yeah, well said. And, I'm just looking ahead at our schedule. Even if we lose both of our tough games upcoming, we've got 6 games left. I would say the only games that I'm worried about are Oregon and USC. I mean, even if hypothetically we lose both of those games, that's a 10-2 season. That was almost unimaginable. When Chip Kelly gets here, that the program was just in complete mess. And a lot of UCLA fans, even after last year, which was 8-4 season, which is not bad, were wanting him out. And I think he's definitely proving all the doubters wrong. Even though he hasn't done as great at recruiting as we wanted, he's really hit the transfer portal well. And I really think if we can get this win at Oregon, sky's the limit for this season.
Yeah, I could not agree with that anymore. I'm right there with you. Like you said, the Oregon game and the USC game are the two biggest ones left on the schedule. I mean, can't take anybody for granted, but in terms of losable games or games that will hold a lot of weight, that's it. Because like we mentioned, I think at the beginning of the stream, with Utah's loss, when you eliminated Utah from the playoff discussion. They can still make the Pac-12 championship because they've only got one conference loss, but in terms of playoff contenders, it's UCLA, Oregon, because they still only have one loss, and then USC. And that's going to kind of have worked itself out by mid to late November. And like you said, I mean, obviously you want to go to the playoffs, you want to win a Pac-12 title, but even if you don't, even if you just go 10-2, and I say just 10-2, that's still an unbelievable year. That's New Year's Six Bowl worthy. And again, that's a mark that was pretty unimaginable just a few years ago. And I'm with you. I remember people being so upset with Chip Kelly a couple of years into his tenure there because he wasn't making UCLA a power like he did at Oregon. Giants aren't built overnight, though. It takes some time, and UCLA was in a pretty bad spot when he took over. And so we always say give a coach 4 or 5 years to really build their program. And we saw some flashes of brilliance last year, an 8-9 win season last year. And this year, they've just taken off. And I really think that, at least 9 wins is almost a lock, but I think 10 or 11 is actually probably more feasible.
Yeah, and I'm very excited about the rest of the year. And, one more thing, it might be a little silly, maybe it's not worth addressing, but, I see all the fans, talking about, UCLA students, fans, and whatever, and I talked about this last week. And, it was kind of embarrassing. Our end zone is completely empty. To be fair, it's like 100 degrees. People have been day drinking, 12:30 kick. But still, you're not going to see that at a lot of other schools. But at the same time, this is just a cope. All these other fans are just jealous that our team is better than theirs usually, and they have to find something to talk trash about. And since we don't have a loss, that's what they go to. So, we've still got some real fans. We might have a lot of people who, don't want to sit in the heat, but there's still some real fans. And I know that USC home game this year is going to be absolutely electric.
I'm really looking forward to that game. And you're right, it's kind of a low blow, right? I mean, when you don't have a good comeback or a good insult to throw at you, it's, oh, well, at least we have real fans. It's like, okay, well, at least our team's, almost a top 10 team. Your real fans are supporting a 3-3 team or whatever, little things like that.
Exactly.
And so, it doesn't matter. But bottom line is, as long as the team's producing results, and UCLA is, that's truly all that matters. And I'm with you. With the really battle for LA, that UCLA matchup is going to be electric. I think people on both sides are going to really show up for that in a big way. That's a game that easily could be a top 10 matchup, hold not just Pac-12 title implications, but playoff implications. I mean, and even that rivalry game, it's been a long, long time since we've seen something of that caliber between those two programs. So that's going to be really, really exciting.
Yeah, I would love for that to be a big game. My hope is it'll be a battle of undefeated teams. I think that would be huge and really, help maybe build some support for the team next year for that fan base. But anyway, it'll be a great game. Super excited. And next week it's a bye week, so I'll just be watching all the other ranked versus ranked games, other big games. So pretty excited. But a huge win for the Bruins. I'll let you go now, but just could not be more excited about this season.
Hey, absolutely. You have every single right to be pumped, man. Years like this don't come around all that often, unless you're one of those perennial elite teams like a Bama, Ohio State or something. They don't come around too often. So you just got to enjoy it in the moment. And the fact that you're getting to, be there and actually showing up for these games and stuff, just adds to the, adds to the experience. So we're pumped for you. I'm glad you're getting to go to them. And I don't know about the rest of the GE Nation, but I'm personally a UCLA fan for the rest of the year. We're excited to see where you guys go.
Thank you so much. Let's go Bruins. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Hey, you too, man. Thanks for calling in.
Yep. Bye.
All right, now we're getting a call from Austin, Texas. Let's just roll to the next, and then we're going to come back to the chat. But Dave, my man, again, thank you so much. Look at Dave's last comment, guys. Let's all do our 111th. I love that so much. And hey, words of advice. He's a wise man. And shoot, I just missed the Austin call. I should have answered it. Whoever just called from Austin, Texas, give us a call back. I was trying to give a shout out, and I didn't want to answer. It's just one of those things. We need a screener. We need someone to come in and screen. But Dave, I appreciate you, man. Savage, the Savage Beast, I believe it was. I appreciate you as well. Both of you guys doing that 111th, it comes through clutch and goes a long, long way. And I'll use that as a plug, guys, not just for the expert picks, or excuse me, not just for the super chats, but for the expert picks as well. Obviously, that is a way to do your 111th as well. Just ask Dave, just ask Steven, who joined our team last week. David Cattell also joined our big Indiana fan. He joined our team last week and came through clutch, guys. These picks are some of the best in the country for one of the lowest prices in the country, and we love it. We love it. We love getting to produce these picks for you guys. Our new picks come out tomorrow on our website, and we want you guys to take advantage of those. So, Dave, thank you so much again, and let's get. Let's get the man himself on the line, the best Savage. What's going on, man? How you doing?
Hey, yo, what's up, man? I just got to say, first off, before I kind of get into what I want to talk about, like, I feel like it's so awesome just to be on the phone with you because I've been, subscribed for so long. See all the progress you've made, man. Like, it's honestly amazing. Like, I'm so happy for you.
Oh man, that means a lot. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. We're pumped to be on the phone with you too. I mean, I've seen your comments, whether it's on a live stream or a normal video, for so long. But I know we don't always get to get everybody on the phone, so I really, really appreciate that and all the support. It really means a lot. But we're not sitting here and we're not building this without year-long support from you guys. So it means a lot.
For sure, man, for sure. So something I just kind of wanted to get into, obviously, I'm a big Florida fan, and I try my best to follow, like, all the teams as closely as I can. I mainly, have a focus on the SEC, but just something I kind of wanted to get into for Florida. This is just my personal opinion, and I wanted to hear your thoughts. I do feel like, a lot of people, Florida fans in particular, have been, like, super hard on Anthony Richardson, and I understand, like, you look at games, like, against South Florida, you look at the Kentucky game, like, he had some very bad games, right? Like, he struggled a lot throughout the season. But then there's also games like he had against Utah, against Tennessee, where he really showed his potential, you know what I mean? He used his legs a lot. I mean, and against Tennessee, he threw for, like, 450. I get they don't have a great secondary, but, I mean, look what they just did to LSU. I mean, they pretty much shut him down. So, and this last game against Missouri, you look at his stat line, 8 of 14, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 56 yards. I mean, you don't see that as amazing, but he only threw the ball 14 times. And even looking back at his 1 interception, it was like 3rd and 12, and he threw an absolute strike to Pearsall. I mean, it was tight coverage, but still hit Pearsall right in the hands, and it kind of, he bobbled it, and the Missouri defender ended up getting an interception. So I just feel like people have been overly critical on Anthony Richardson. I just kind of wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, first off, excellent points, all of them. Because, I mean, a lot of people are going to be quick doing that. He had a great, debut game kind of against Utah, really a setback against Kentucky. You were right against the game against Tennessee. I mean, torched them in that game despite the loss. And obviously they had a little mini comeback there to make that game look a little bit closer than it really was. But,
right.
I think the issue with Anthony Richardson more than anything right now is, I mean, what a lot of people I think are forgetting about is, first off, I think everybody put way too much stock into him after the Utah game. He had a great game.
Right.
Florida won that game. He was phenomenal on the ground. Didn't do that much through the air, but it was his dual threat ability. What people are also forgetting is he wasn't even the full-time starter last year.
Right.
Last year was such a dumpster fire. Dan Mullen kind of, with his horrible coaching decision across the board, was it going to be Emory Jones? Was it going to be Anthony Richardson? And obviously they just kind of ran themselves into the ground as the year went on. So you're bringing in a guy who has never been a full-time starter, who had been splitting time, whether it was garbage time or meaningful time, whatever it was, splitting time last year. Now he's got a new coach. That you don't just succeed overnight. You don't just become a Heisman contender like that just immediately. And obviously a lot of key new pieces. We knew Florida had a lot of key new pieces on in the wide receiver core. I think I can't remember, like only 2 of the top 5 receivers were back from last year. I mean, there were just a lot of things. So I do think people probably have been a little overly critical of Richardson because they're basing these last few games they're basing it off of what they saw in week 1, and you can't do that. You just can't continue to say, well, if he doesn't play like he does against Utah, he's horrible. That's just not realistic.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. And I mean, I just feel like he's had such an up and down year, because there's obviously a lot of negatives, but there's also a lot of positives, right? He's that player to me who will make some mistakes where you just, I mean, you're just scratching your head, like, why would you make that throw? What were you thinking? But then he also makes some plays that are just like amazing. You know what I mean? Like you're just mind blown. So I feel like he's just had such an up and down year. But I kind of feel like this Florida LSU game is actually a really big game for Florida. I know it's kind of under the radar, 2 4-2 teams. Like you were saying earlier in the stream, like normally this game has much higher implications. But at the same time, I think in my opinion, the chance is that the winner of this game could potentially be ranked. And if Florida could win this game, they would then possibly crack the top 25, be at 5-2 going into a bye week, and then, coming out to play Georgia, which I just think would be huge if they can crack the top 25, get a whole bye week to prepare for Georgia, and, maybe make that a somewhat competitive game.
Yeah, no, that would just be huge for the program as well, for the whole thing. And honestly, I mean, Georgia clearly is not the same Georgia team from last year. They're still really, really good. Don't get me wrong. And I'm not saying I think Florida State's going to beat them, but if they can make that game a top 25 matchup, and I would tell you this, I really believe even if Florida, if they beat LSU and they're not ranked going into their bye week, people will lose. They'll be getting a lot of votes, and people will lose ahead of Florida. I imagine the AP will find a way to throw them in at 24th, 25th, just so it looks better, make that ranked versus ranked matchup.
Right.
And it still would be huge. I mean, especially when you consider, while we were talking about Georgia, they've still yet to face Kentucky, who I'm not completely sold on. I'm still going to play Kentucky. Definitely haven't played Tennessee yet. As Nick was mentioning earlier, they haven't played Mississippi State yet. Those are three realistically losable games for Georgia if they don't turn in their A game like they didn't against Missouri, like they didn't against Kent State, and really like they didn't for about a half or close to 3/4 against Auburn. This team is vulnerable. And so if Florida by somehow were to pull off that upset, it just sends the entire SEC East into chaos.
Right. Absolutely. And, I just had one more question for you. So obviously I'm a huge Gator fan, but as you mentioned, I was calling from Austin, Texas, so I'm surrounded by Longhorn fans, obviously. And I just kind of wanted to hear your thoughts. Obviously, we saw Quinn Ewers for like a quarter against Alabama and, just saw him dismantle Oklahoma. Now, obviously, Oklahoma didn't really have a quarterback in that game. Not that, that affects their defense, but, I feel like we just saw TCU put up 55 on Oklahoma. I mean, really just kind of let off the gas, I feel like, at the end of the game, too. Probably could have scored 70 if they wanted to. But point being, I just wanted to know, do you think, let's say Quinn Ewers never gets hurt against Alabama, do you think Texas is in the playoff conversation undefeated right now?
Yeah, honestly, probably. I really do. I think if Quinn Ewers doesn't get hurt, I think they beat Alabama. I genuinely do. Alabama was making so many mistakes. Texas had all the momentum in the world, lose by 1 point. I mean, he would have had him in the end zone a couple more times and would have pulled away, made the plays. I don't think they lose to Texas Tech if they have Quinn Ewers there. That game still would have been close, but I think he wins. And here's the thing: we don't want to put too much. Ewers is phenomenal. Don't get me wrong; he's a great quarterback. But let's not too much stock into it. We're basing him off of roughly a half against Alabama, where he looked great, but a half against Alabama and a game against Oklahoma, their team who was beat up, probably mentally not there, and whose defense clearly has not as good as we thought it would be. Because torched against Kansas State, torched against TCU. Still think he's phenomenal. But really, that's besides the point. To answer your question, yes, Texas is undefeated. Texas is a top 10 team, and they are in the playoff discussion 100%.
Right. And I mean, absolutely, like you were saying, Quinn Ewers has shown so many great signs and capabilities. But like you were saying, he only played a half, maybe even a little less against Alabama. And, I feel like that's a game where you're going to come out emotional. It's a home game against a top-ranked team, so you're probably going to be playing at your best. Then he played Oklahoma, who, been getting shredded on defense. And then even in that game, I think there was a play, Texas was already up 4 scores, right? But they drove down to the red zone, and you kind of see him under pressure, just kind of trying to throw the ball away, I think. But still, he throws it up into traffic. It's an easy interception. So, that you just when I'm having discussions with other Texas fans and stuff like that, I kind of let them know, don't get me wrong, he's amazing, but you don't want to put the crown on him just yet because you still see some of those young player mistakes that you'd expect out of just these young new players.
Yeah, I don't think I could say that any better. You're exactly right. He's a freshman quarterback. He was highly touted. He's gonna be great. He's already thrown a lot of flashes of brilliance, but even the number 1 overall prospects, these great guys, they're going to make mistakes because college is so drastic from high school. You're playing against better athletes than you did in high. I mean, you're young. You're going to make mistakes, but he's a guy that's going to be at Texas for probably 3 years. He's got this year, probably 2 more, unless he's before he goes pro if he chooses to do it that early. And is only going to continue to get better as he goes on. So I wouldn't like to say don't crown him yet, but from what we've seen, the future is very, very bright for him.
Right, absolutely, man. Well, I really appreciate you taking this call. I feel so honored because just I've been a fan for so long, and it's so nice to actually be able to be on the phone and talk some college football. But I'll let you get back to the stream, man. It was a lot of fun, and I look forward to all the other videos.
Hey, absolutely, man. Thanks so much for all the support, man. And hey, go Gators, man. We're pumped for it.
Sure, man, for sure. Go Gators. You have a good one.
Hey, you too. All right, I love it. I love it. The best Savage. Let's go, baby. How about that? What a call. What a call. He goes, I'm honored. Like, man, what are you talking about? I'm the one that should be honored, man. I'm honored that you guys are actually calling my phone. I mean, that's freaking awesome. Talk about a great community, guys, and a great GE Nation, and such a great live stream tonight. So the best Savage, thank you again for calling in. We're pumped to watch the Gators on Saturday. He's a Gator fan in Austin, so hostile territory, especially considering Texas will be in the SEC here in a few years. So at least he'll still be in SEC country technically. But man, what a call. Great questions, great discussion, great debate. I love it. I love it. I love it. Line's still open for a little bit, guys. I'll probably leave it open for another 15 or so minutes, and then we'll slowly start to wrap things up. But thank you again for calling in, my man, and thank you for that super chat earlier in the stream. He was trying not to stutter. Dude, oh man, that's hilarious. I love it. I love it. Well, again, I appreciate you for calling on. You did great. Couldn't even tell you were nervous. Not even going to lie. I couldn't even tell a bit. You sounded awesome. I typically go back and rewatch some of these live streams, later on, go back to the chat when the night's over, but I'll make sure to go listen to this call again. But man, you sounded great. You sounded great. And I really appreciate you calling in, and like you and like Nick, and like South Texas, so many of you other guys that haven't always been able to call in for whatever reason. We're pumped to be able to get you guys on the line, and like you said, just getting to talk ball. And we're pumped to talk ball with you, even just in the chat. Just if you just want to come in here and just type away, we're always going to get to your question and comment. It's always going to be addressed. So, always going to have it. But the best Savage, again, thank you so much, man. We appreciate you and all your support. Really do. I remember getting your comments, man, years and years and years ago on the videos. And obviously, you've been around ever since. You haven't left. So we are very grateful for that. All right, let's keep going. Let me go scroll back up to the chat. Mike says he's calling in to talk UCF football next week. Bring it, Mike. Let's do it. Let's talk some UCF ball. I'm ready for it. We focus on all the teams around here, so we will happily talk some UCF night football, who are actually doing relatively well. They've got a game against Temple, right? Temple on Thursday, I think. So should be a win in theory. Kind of quietly be a legitimate contender in the American Athletic. I think they've kind of fallen off, back when they used to be, your constant undefeated team, whatever. But this is still a UCF team that's still dangerous, still very solid, and could be playing for a conference championship here in about a month or so. Really could be. So, Mike, bring it. We'll be ready for you. We're looking forward to it. All right, let's catch up a little bit on the chat. Let's see. Had some great discussion with the playoff scenarios earlier. Loved that. Great question again from the best Savage. I saw it and I didn't get to address it. It makes me so sad to see Arkansas struggling this year. They were such a good story last year. Do I think they can turn around and finish at a respectable 7-5 or 8-4? It's gonna be tough, man. It's gonna be tough for Arkansas. It is sad, It's the Razorbacks were a couple weeks ago a top 10 team. And I think most Razorback fans probably wouldn't be so stressed or so nervous or freaking out if they were 4-2. I think it's the A&M loss that really broke most Arkansas fans. It was because most Arkansas fans we can dream. Maybe we could beat Alabama. They wanted the atmosphere and the excitement and the hype surrounding the Tennessee-Alabama game on Saturday. That was what Arkansas wanted when Alabama came to town a few weeks ago. And when they lost to A&M, a lot of that got zapped, taken away. And they hung with Alabama, relatively hung with it, came back, and then blew it again. But, no one, I don't think many Arkansas fans truly believed they'd beat Alabama. They hoped and thought there was a good chance, but they didn't believe. So, you lose that, okay, you're 4-1 if you beat A&M. Then you lose to Mississippi State, and okay, dang, 4-2, Bama hangover, air raids, tough to do, whatever, 4-2. All right, you beat BYU, you're 5-2, you're going on. But now you're 3-3, and it's just this weird feeling of and stress of the wheels have come off. And you don't know what's going to happen with Arkansas. I mean, Do I think they can turn around? Sure. I think it starts this Saturday, though, and I think they have to beat BYU. Arkansas is very beat up. They have suffered a lot of injuries. They didn't have KJ Jefferson last week. The secondary is just depleted. It has been a rough year with the injury bug with Arkansas. But I also don't think the injury bug would be used as an excuse if they hadn't lost to A&M. I think from a mental standpoint, we talked about that. I believe it was with Christian earlier on when he called in. We were talking about teams that are really good at one point in the season, and then they lose their star player or they lose a heartbreaking game, and mentally they check out. And I think that's what happened with Arkansas. I think mentally they're gone. As you said, I think they had all this excitement coming in, and the players' head, they're like, we're going to be good. We were good last year. We're going to be great this year. And then when KJ Jefferson fumbled at the goal line and they lost to A&M, it just zapped them. They were like, we're done. We can't get back. They can save their season if they beat BYU, but if you go from 3-0, top 10 team, to 3-4 entering your bye week, so 4 straight losses, it's hard to come back from, especially when you consider that right out of the bye week, you're going to Jordan-Hare Stadium. Yes, Auburn's not that great of a team, but still a road game in the SEC. That's tough. Liberty's not easy. LSU's in Fayetteville. That's winnable, sure. Ole Miss is not easy, and that Ole Miss team could torch Arkansas secondary if they don't figure things out. So you want to believe that Arkansas could turn around and salvage a 7-8 win season. They went 8-4 last year. Getting to that mark again would be considered a miracle at this point, but it's going to be tough. Ask me again after the BYU game, and I can give you a better answer. Dave, when college football is done, are we going to cover other sports? That is a possibility, and that's a possibility possibly on our Patreon. Wow, look at that. We are working on a Patreon, guys. It's still in the works, kind of coming up with different things that we are going to put in there, exclusive content for you guys. So that way you're going to get the content here on our channel, but also more content, exclusive content through the Patreon. And one of those things might be other sports, covering, when football ends, covering more NFL, obviously, covering a little bit of college basketball, NBA, if you're into that. MLB throughout the season, and again, not as much as we do college football, but when there's only so much off-season content you can cover from about February to June when we start predictions. You can cover some schedule previews, you can do some futures. You can look at the FPI projections, you can look at the coaching carousel, you can look at recruiting, you can do a weight, but there's only so many things you can do from a college football standpoint. There's a lot of other sports and storylines we could be talking about, and we're going to have some of those on our Patreon, along with a lot of other things when we launch that, hopefully by the end of October. So today's the 11th, October 11th. So hopefully by the end of the month at the latest, we will have that Patreon completely put together, have a good price on that, and it will be a very good low price for you guys, and we can get you on board and be producing content here on the channel, but also more exclusive stuff there. And we're really, really excited about it. So I know earlier we kind of talked about a Patreon. I know we had mentioned that. But we're going to put out another post once it's like really close to being finalized. We're going to put something out there just to get more engagement, to see who's interested. Would you sign up? Would you not sign up? What do you want in it? We've talked about that a little bit in our Discord server. If you're not a part of the Discord, go jump in on that, because we like to ask you guys questions and give you guys updates. But yeah, we're really excited about that. We're really, really excited about that. So great question. Great question. Mark TR, good to see you, man. I don't even know if you're still here, but good to see you. He says, I'm still on the Miami train, even though it crashed. I wish it hadn't crashed for you, my man. I wish it hadn't. But yeah, it's gone down here real fast. I mean, I don't know what happened. I mean, was it kind of a similar situation, kind of like Arkansas, where Miami had these lofty expectations and was 13th in the country and thought they were going to beat A&M, but kind of beat themselves, and then the wheels came off after that because they lose to A&M, they lose to Middle Tennessee, they lose to North Carolina at home. I mean, like I said, the wheels just come off. A lot of disappointing teams this year, right? Like we talk about these elite teams, but what if we had a playoff? What if we had a playoff of teams that had like high expectations that fell short? I mean, who would be in that? Arkansas would be in it. Oklahoma would be in it. Miami would be in it. A&M would probably be in it. We have 2 SEC teams in there. You could maybe consider Baylor in there, a team that was top 10 at one point, or right outside the top 10 that is now unranked. They could be considered a contender. So a lot of teams might have to do that. Might have to have a little fun with that. Like their ultimate 12-team, 16-team playoff among teams that, almost like an NIT, except it's not an NIT. It's just teams that have fallen way short. NIT is like you were on the bubble but just missed out. These are going to be teams that aren't even on the bubble, but were considered contenders at one point in the season. So we might have to make that a little video, or at least part of a live stream here in the next few weeks. Let a couple games happen, a few more happen, just so we can really know for sure which teams are falling short. But that would be a fun one. That'd be good. But Mark, good to see you, man. I hate it for you. He says there's going to be more pain this week or another Miami crash. Hokey for Life says it's just continued pain. He just says it's still pain across the board. And obviously Miami and Virginia Tech taking on each other. That's going to be fun. Eddie Rose, good to see you, man. I appreciate you and your support, man. Thank you. He goes, I think he should hire an offensive coordinator. I don't know why he's so stubborn. Sometimes I wonder if he wants to win at Missouri. You do wonder that sometimes, right? You sometimes wonder if some coaches kind of just give up and are waiting to be fired or waiting for someone to, relieve them of their duties, right? Like, you hope that's not the case, that that's ever the case, that a coach just ultimately gives up on his job and is like, yeah, I'm going to show up, I'm going to act like I'm trying, but if I lose, oh well. Oh, you want to fire me? You're going to pay me an $8 million buyout? I'm cool with that. Like, no one ever wants to be fired because it's humiliating, but coaches are in such a good spot because, like, oh, dang. You fired me? Oh, you're going to pay me $10 million to leave? Oh, no. What am I ever going to do, right? Like, and obviously if that's your passion, that's your job, you want to continue to coach. And not many schools are going to look at a guy and go, oh, you got fired from your last job. We don't want to hire you here. If you can't win here, why would we hire you here? Like, I get that. But at the same time, you could be in a worse spot too. I mean, imagine if your everyday job, you're us average Joes, like we got fired from our job and the job goes, hey, we're going to pay you, $3 million on your way out. Cool. I'm fine with that. Thank you. Moving on, but yeah, it's, Drinkwitz will be, I'll tell you what, Eddie, if Drinkwitz isn't gone by the end of this year, he'll be gone by next year, in my opinion. Dave says, he goes, Eli Drinkwitz is very similar to Jimbo Fisher. He just needs an offensive coordinator. Because, yeah, let me tell you, that last play by Jimbo Fisher and the Aggies on Saturday, whoo, I would be livid too. I mean, I was on Twitter, all the social media platforms, looking at just people. I was just watching the world burn. I wasn't even like commenting. I was just sitting there watching the rage and the flames just go higher and higher because people were livid over Jimbo's play call, and I'm with them. I mean, you get one shot, 2 yards out, one shot to take down the number one team in the country on their turf. And that's the play you run. That was such as Graham, I believe it was Graham Brooks on one of our videos, he commented, he goes, that was such a low percentage play. That was such a low, that play had to be run perfectly. The timing had to be perfect. The separation had to be perfect. And I actually think had he caught the ball, the ball probably wouldn't have crossed the goal line. So he still would have failed had it been complete. So, why not? I don't know exactly what I would have called in that sense. Do I run the ball? Would I have run the ball? Would I have done a quarterback keeper? Would I have tried to run a slant across the middle instead of going to the outside corner? I know they were trying to go one-on-one, right? And they probably didn't like the odds of just a fade. Just lob it to the back of the end zone, corner fade and hope for the best, because more than likely in that scenario, if there was pass interference, they weren't going to throw that flag. Final seconds, number one team, they weren't going to throw a pass interference flag that late in the game. So obviously, I'm sure there were a lot of people that were kind of worried about that. And Jimbo was probably worried about that. But so I don't know what I would have called, but it definitely would have been that. Definitely would not have been that. So yeah, I agree with Eddie and I agree with Dave on both of those. Jerry Turner says UCLA is going to get 11 wins. They would be in the playoff discussion with that, no doubt about it. So interesting point here by Christian, who called in with I did like his suggestion of the ranking system. Again, for those of you that are joining us now or did not hear, Christian's idea was the end of the year poll. So whatever the teams are ranked after bowl season, that is where teams should be ranked to start the next season. Fair. And we kind of went into how that would be good, but also how that would be bad, the pros and cons of both, and how you would have to, different scenarios. And we use the example of Auburn back after they beat Oregon for that national championship with Cam Newton. In that sense, Auburn would be number one the next year without Cam Newton, without many of their players. And we said, well, if they lost, they'd probably still stay in at number 12. And he says, I think they should be unranked. So that would be interesting as well because you would rarely see never really see a team go from that high in the rankings to unranked, depending on who they lost to. As Doggy said, Doggy, first off, great to see you. Glad you're here. He says, Michigan has gone from number 5 to unranked. Of course, that was back in 2007 when they lost to Appalachian State, one of the biggest upsets of all time, and rightfully so. They deserve to go from 5th to unranked. But if Auburn were to lose to, I think the next year they played like Washington State or something in the opener, Utah State, Washington State, something like that, they wouldn't have been unranked. I doubt it. So, based on your model unranked, but based on the AP, they would have kept them as a top 15 team. So that's where the issue slightly comes in. But I do get what you're saying there. What else do we have here? Look at that. Graham was here. I love it. Graham, good to see you here. Bang Bus Driver, good to see you here. And Doggy and 2016 Teen Raider. I want to give a shout out to Teen Raider. Good to see you. And we're going to get to the rest of y'all's comments here as we slowly start to close tonight. But 2016 Cavaliers, he was disappointed in Utah, and can a two-loss team get into the playoff? I'm going to answer both. Disappointed in Utah? Yes, me too. Very disappointed in Utah. I thought they were a legitimate playoff contender. Hate to see them out of the playoff this early in the season. Tying into that, could a two-loss team make the playoff? No. At least not from the Pac-12, right? Like if Utah wins out, if Utah beats USC and then wins the remainder of their games, they beat Oregon later in the year and guys like that, they're still not making the playoffs because strength of schedule is just not good enough. We're getting a call real quick from South Carolina. Want to take this call. This will be our last one of the night so we can wrap up with the chat. And it's only fitting, I genuinely feel like, I think it's only fitting that the last call of the night is our man, Hunter, all the way from South Carolina. Hunter, how's it going, man?
I'm doing amazing, man. I just wanted to call in. I almost missed the stream. I'm glad I did. But I just wanted to call in. I got some couple questions for you about this week's games and about some teams I think that could really make a breakthrough if they keep this win streaks up.
Okay. All right. Great. Well, hit me up. Let's do it.
All right. So I have a question for you. Do you think USC has a chance or can make the playoffs?
Yeah, well, I mean, 100%. I mean, USC is so highly ranked right now. Even if the playoff committee comes in and really USC is in a prime spot to make the playoff if they go undefeated and win the Pac-12, and that's obviously easier said than done when they still have to play Utah, when they still have to play UCLA, when they might have to play one of them again, or maybe Oregon in the Pac-12 championship game. It's easier said than done, but an undefeated USC Pac-12 champion is in the playoff, and one could make a possible case for them. If they're 11-1 in the regular season, you can make an argument for that. I don't think they'd get in with the weak strength of schedule, but yeah, they are absolutely in the hunt for that, no doubt.
All right, next one. Who do you think is going to win this Clemson game? I think it's Clemson versus Boston College, I think.
I think Clemson takes on Florida State this weekend.
Oh, yeah, last week was Boston College.
Yeah, I'm taking Clemson, my man. I feel really good about Clemson over Florida State. I think a lot of people are wanting to pick Florida State for the upsets in Tallahassee. It's at night, and the Seminoles have definitely improved. Don't get me wrong, but they're reeling. They've lost back-to-back games against Wake Forest and NC State, both of which Clemson beat already. I just, ultimately what it comes down to is the run game for Florida State. They're averaging over 200 rushing yards per game. Clemson's allowing under 65 per game. So if Clemson shuts that down, I don't have faith in Jordan Travis delivering it through the air and winning the game through the air for Florida State. So I think it's closer than people expect. Last couple of games have been decided by, I think, 10 or less. So it's been a relatively even, close game for the most part. Or I take that back. Last year was decided by 10. We've had a couple close matchups, but Clemson's going to win that game.
All right, final question. Do you think Brett Venables will keep his job this season after what Texas did to Texas A&M?
Yeah, he'll still be around. He'll still be at Oklahoma, no doubt. First year coach. They couldn't expect him to come in and win a natty or continue the success. I mean, now next year, if they struggle mightily next year and only go 8-4, 9-3, or worse than that, then you can start talking about them getting rid of him after only 2 years and maybe saying that he's not cut out for a head coaching position. But there's no way that Oklahoma is going to let him go or even people are calling for his head. They're not going to let him go after 1 year. I do think Oklahoma turns it around. I really do. I think Oklahoma, they're not going to win out by any means, but they're going to make sure that they finish strong. And I could easily see them winning 8 games by the end of the year.
All right. What do you think about Kansas versus Oklahoma? Do you think that Kansas has a chance to beat Oklahoma like they did last year? They almost did last year. My bad.
Yeah, well, they hung with them. Kansas played them close, for sure. But that's actually where I think the Oklahoma turnaround begins. I think Oklahoma actually beats Kansas. We talked about that in our video earlier this afternoon. I think Oklahoma takes down Kansas in Norman. This feels like the bounce-back game that Oklahoma needs. Jalen Daniels out for the year for Kansas. Jason Bean looked fine against TCU. So the backup quarterback is more than capable of winning a game for Kansas, no doubt about it. But I think that's a huge blow, a huge loss for Kansas. I think they're reeling a little bit after their first loss. Norman, despite Oklahoma struggling so much, is still a very difficult place to play. I think this is the game that Oklahoma starts to turn things around and is able to get themselves kind of right back on track.
All right. Well, that's all the questions I have for you. Thank you for answering them, and have a good night.
Hey, appreciate you, Hunter. Have a good one, man.
All right. You too. Bye.
All right, that was Hunter. Let's get this last one in here. He's been trying for a while, so I want to make sure. Let's see. Well, hold up. Let's see what we got. All right, who do we have with us? I couldn't hear that name at the end. Who is this?
This is Colbert. How you doing, man?
Hey, man, how's it going? I'm doing well.
Doing pretty good.
Awesome. You're calling from Tennessee, is that right?
Yes, sir. East Tennessee.
East Tennessee. I love it. Very nice. Very nice. Well, thanks for being here, man. Thanks for calling in.
All right, so I got a question real quick.
Yeah.
So, I was born and raised in East Tennessee, so I'm a big Tennessee fan. So, I don't know if you've already talked about this. I just got off work, so I just wanted to ask what your thoughts were on the game coming up this week.
Just the Alabama-Tennessee game?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, tomorrow we're actually going to have our official prediction out for that game. So make sure to come back to the channel tomorrow and watch that video. But just to give you a little preview, man, it's the game of the week. I mean, this is – Tennessee has had a lot of big games over, the last decade or so. They've had a lot of big games in the last few years. I mean, keep in mind, Alabama and Tennessee, they were both these teams were in the top 10 back in 2016 in Knoxville. It was like number 1, number 9. Bama crushed them, but it was still a top 10 game. So it hasn't been that long since this is a top 10 game. But this game feels different than that one back in 2016. It feels like a very good opportunity where Tennessee could take down Alabama. Bama seems to be vulnerable. They looked it last week against A&M. Yes, they were with their backup quarterback, but looked vulnerable there. They looked vulnerable against Texas. Neyland Stadium is going to be rocking, and Tennessee has the offense to hang with Alabama, and they have the offense to exploit Alabama. I think, the one thing that's actually standing out to me more than anything, too, is not just the talent from Tennessee, not just the storylines, but go look at the point spread. I mean, when was the last time that you saw Alabama as a single-digit favorite over anybody? I mean, unless it was like in a championship game or a playoff game. I mean, normal regular season games, very rarely have you seen Alabama only around a touchdown favorite. And I think that's a testament to how good Tennessee is, how much home field advantage is going to play a role. This game is going to be much closer, very tight, and could easily result in a major Tennessee upset on Saturday. I have no doubt about that. Our official prediction comes out tomorrow, but this game is going to be one for the ages.
Okay, one more thing real quick. So I'm just let's say Tennessee does win this game, and I'm pretty sure Alabama did announce Bryce Young will be back. So if Bryce Young gets back and Tennessee does win this game, do you think they will be, or do you think they're deserving of the number 1 spot since they'll have the best win of the season so far?
Yeah, that's actually one thing I'm really interested to see what the AP does with that. Bama's number 3, Tennessee's number 6. If they beat Alabama, do they jump? Do they jump Ohio State? Do they jump Georgia? You can make a really good case for it. Who does Georgia beat? They beat Oregon, who's playing very well, and maybe they would weigh that a little higher. They would have to jump that number 1 team. They would have to be able to jump Georgia to justify that. But I think you could make a very good case. Tennessee would already have the win over Florida who, if they beat LSU, helps them out, isn't a bad win at all. Very good resume boosting win. They've got the win over Pittsburgh, who very well could win the Coastal. I know they're not ranked anymore, but that was a road win against a solid team there. I mean, Tennessee's resume is actually pretty impressive. Road win at LSU. So even though these teams aren't as elite as they have been in the past, you factor in all of that plus the win over Alabama. And also, I'll tell you this, to me, it's going to depend on how bad, if they win, how bad they win. Are they beating them? Do they win by a touchdown? Do they win by 14? Margin of victory is going to play a major role in where they would be ranked. But I think Tennessee would have as good of a resume, if not the best resume in the country, if they take down Bama, which in theory should mean they're the number one team in the country.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I would think that Tennessee had the best resume because I know Georgia has beat Oregon, and at the time I think they were ranked in the top 10 or right around 12. But Alabama is 6. In theory, that is a better win. I mean, yes, Oregon did get blown out by Georgia, and then Ohio State. Ohio State hasn't really had, has Ohio State had any ranked wins? Do you know?
Well, they took down Notre Dame in the season opener, but obviously Notre Dame's out of the rankings now.
That is very true. I guess you could make an argument, too, that every team that Tennessee has played up until this point, Pitt was ranked when we played them, so was LSU, so was Florida, but they're all not in the top 25 now. So you can make an argument that Tennessee doesn't have any top 25 wins. But
Yeah, the resume would be there, and then obviously Tennessee's still got some quality games coming up. They've got Kentucky's going to be there. They've got Georgia later on. I mean, that game could easily be number 1, number 2, number 1, number 5. I mean, top 5 showdown if both teams continue to take care of business and would not just be that would be for the SEC East Division. So a lot of big factors coming in, and it's all weighing on whether or not Tennessee can win on Saturday.
Yeah. All right. Well, man, I appreciate you for your time.
Yeah, thanks for calling in, man. We appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
All right, great call, and we'll make that the last one of the night. I'm glad we got that one in there to talk a little bit about. I'm going to unpin this real quick. A little bit about that Tennessee-Bama game. I mean, God, that's going to be just epic, right? I mean, our prediction for that comes out tomorrow. I'm sure we'll talk more about it tomorrow in our live stream and throughout the week, and then the recap. But man, what a game there! And I know my man Max Todd is going to be pumped for that one. Max. Super excited to see you, man. He says, better late than never, long day. God, we got to be back at work at 6 a.m. Wow. Max, I hate that you've got a busy month, man. I really do. But we appreciate you. Hope you're able to power through. We're October 11th, so 20 more days, right? About 3 more weeks, and then we'll survive October. But we appreciate you, Max, and thank you very much for that super chat donation, man. That really... again, goes a long way and truly means a lot. He goes, my weekly contribution to GE, and man, we appreciate it. We really, really do. I don't think you understand. I love it, man. We got 2 colors up there right now. They're almost like a little rainbow. Got red, we got orange. I'd love to have a little yellow, a little green. But Max, thank you so much. He says Bama wins by 11. Bama wins 45-34 if Bryce Young is at quarterback. Now, if Bryce Young is not, who knows what could happen? I don't know. Maybe you believe Jalen Milroe could give him the win on the road. Maybe Tennessee steals the win. I don't know. Bryce Young, my only fear with that, Max, is, I think Bryce Young is going to play. I do. I think Bryce Young is almost a lock to play. But how healthy is he? Is he 100%, or are we rushing back on that? It's going to be interesting. I mean, Tennessee, as we talked about multiple times tonight, has a really bad secondary, one that Bryce Young could definitely exploit. But we always talk about how Tennessee, if they want, or anybody really for that matter, wants to beat Alabama, they have to throw the ball. They need to throw the ball. You don't even have to have much balance. You just got to air it out. One does not run against Alabama. You just don't have success on the ground against the Crimson Tide. And for some reason, teams can't get that through their heads. People believe, we got to mix it up. We got to be balanced. As the great Mike Leach said, I don't believe in 50% run and 50% pass. I believe that's 50% stupid. If something's working, keep doing it. If the team has a weakness, exploit it. Not saying Alabama's weakness is the secondary, but I believe that if Tennessee wants to win this game, they're going to have to throw the ball 40, 50 times with Hendon Hooker. I really believe that. But, man, I'm excited for tomorrow, man. I'm excited to get that live stream going, excited to get that video out. And, man, Saturday with the slate of games that we have, especially this one being the game of the week, cannot get here quick enough. So, again, Max, really, really appreciate it. Really, really appreciate you. Appreciate you, Dave, as well. Dave is still up there. His thing's been up there for like 30 minutes. So, Dave, we thank you. Max, we thank you. The Best Savage, we thank you. All those live stream guys and those super chats go such a long way. And again, help us out tremendously. I want to hit the last few bits of the chat here before we wrap up tonight. The Best Savage says, must win for Arkansas against BYU. How do I feel about Oklahoma being favorites over Kansas? I feel confident in saying Kansas wins outright. Wow, big. I like it. It's a bold pick. Bold pick considering it's in Norman. I probably might be leaning Kansas' way too if it was in Lawrence. I wouldn't go so far yet. I like Oklahoma in this game. If Dylan Gabriel's healthy, like Max was saying, if Bryce Young is healthy, I'm saying if Dylan Gabriel's healthy, I think Oklahoma beats Kansas. I'm not going to say that's by a lot by any means, but I do think that they are able to take down Kansas. Great question, though. Let's see. 2016 Cavaliers says Tennessee wins in a tight one. I think we're going to have a lot of people disagreeing over the course of this week, going back and forth between Bama or Tennessee. Who are you going to pick? I mean, all these games are tough, guys. I mean, Bama, Tennessee, who do you pick? Who are you picking in Penn State, Michigan? Who are you picking in TCU, Oklahoma State? I mean, those three games, I mean, are huge for the SEC, the Big 12, and the Big 10. They're huge for the playoff with all of those. I mean, those are the three biggest games of the week. Two of those being top 10 matchups, Oklahoma State and TCU, number 8, number 13. So two top 10 matchups, all three top 15 matchups. And it has such major implications on which teams could make their conference championship, but also the playoff race. Because what people don't understand is a one-loss team obviously can get into the playoff. If Alabama loses to Tennessee, but then Bama wins out, because there's really no one in the West that's going to challenge them for that top spot. Someone would say Ole Miss. I disagree. But if Alabama wins out, they're in the playoff, just like they were last year. They lost to A&M. They won out. They beat Georgia in the SEC championship, made the playoff. So one loss does not ruin your season, does not ruin your shots of making the playoff. But what I always tell people is it gives you such little room for error. Alabama still, if they lose to Tennessee, still has not played, Ole Miss. They still have not played Mississippi State, who's a solid team. You never know what could happen in the Iron Bowl. Auburn's pretty bad this year, but you never know. I mean, you never know on any given Saturday what could happen. So if Alabama were to lose to Tennessee and they lose one more game in upset fashion, they're done. Same for Tennessee. The excitement high for Tennessee. But they lose to Alabama, they're done. This is actually, to me, a bigger game for Tennessee than it is for Alabama because not only can they make a statement with this win, obviously, but if you lose to Alabama, you're still in the playoff hunt. You're still in the SEC title hunt, but you haven't played Georgia yet. So, you beat Alabama. Great. You lose to Georgia. Ouch. Unfortunate. But if Tennessee finishes 11-1 with their lone loss to Georgia, they don't play for the SEC championship because, Georgia is going to win the East, assuming they don't slip up. And then Alabama's a one-loss team to somebody and Georgia beats. I mean, it creates chaos, It can create a lot of chaos if Tennessee beats Bama but loses to Georgia. And therefore, you could see Georgia play a one-loss Alabama in the SEC championship. If Georgia beats that, Bama's out. Could we see Tennessee get into the playoff without even playing in the SEC championship game, just like Alabama did a few years ago? Remember, Georgia and Auburn played in the SEC championship game. Georgia beat Auburn. Alabama got into the playoff as that 4 seed. It can happen. So watch. I mean, a lot of weird scenarios and just chaos that can happen. And it's all going to start this week with the results in those 3 games that we just mentioned. 100%. I'm really, really excited for them. All right. Let's see. Everybody saying they hate the preseason rankings. Glad most of us can agree on that. Very nice. Very nice. Benjamin Orman, good to see you, man. NC State versus the Orange is a very big game. The two fan bases needs to be Seminoles fans this week, just saying. So there you go, guys. If any of you out there are NC State or Syracuse fans, be a Florida State fan. Hope they take down Clemson because that would obviously create some chaos within the ACC Atlantic. And let's keep in mind, too, that if Syracuse beats NC State and Clemson beats Florida State, we will have an undefeated matchup between Syracuse and Clemson next week. Who would have predicted that? potential division crown on the line. That's going to be exciting. It's going to be very exciting. So watch out for that. All right, let's see. Clement Akufo, good to see you. Great analysis across the board over Tennessee and Alabama. 3 straight comments there. Love it. Love it. Clement always gets some really good analysis and great comments there. So thank you, Clement, for being here. Doggy, sorry for fringing on politics and religion, but I'm really glad Liberty won their game against UMass. Hey, to each their own. I don't say much about them all, but I know you were happy that Liberty took that game down. I know. Let's see here. Cavalier, what's my favorite candy? Great question. You know, Halloween's right around the corner. What's my favorite candy? I go back and forth. My go-to, the one I'm addicted to, peanut M&Ms. All right, not regular. I love regular M&Ms, but peanut M&Ms, man. You give me a bag of that, like, you know, one of those like family size fun bag type things. You know, probably about that tall, roughly. And you just place it in front of me. I can't stop. It's an addiction. It's handful after handful. Just go and next thing you know, you've eaten the whole bag. It's horrible. I don't know if it's true or not. I read something online once. Can't believe everything you read online, obviously. Something like, yeah, did you know that you have to walk like 100 yards to burn off one M&M? I don't think that's necessarily true, but, you know, that was a long time ago. But, you know, so I'm over here just shoveling like thousands of yards that I'm going to have to go run for my next pickup game to burn off these peanut M&Ms, but I just can't stop. I can't stop. But if you're looking for like other candy, I love peanut M&Ms. I love Kit Kats. You know, especially Halloween, you can buy those like fun size ones. That's the problem, because you go, oh, I can eat 4 or 5 of these fun size ones. That's about the size of a normal size one. No, it's not. No, it's not. But you just get hooked on them, you know. So peanut M&Ms, Kit Kats. Around Christmas time, you know, they always have the different candies have the different shapes. You know, it's like somehow like Easter, they do like the Reese's eggs, right? Christmas, they have like the Santa Hershey's, you know, Hershey's the same percent. For some reason, those Hershey's hit different than a normal Hershey. It's stupid. It's the same chocolate. It's the same thing. But the shape of the candy somehow affects the taste. And somehow it's a mind game. The Reese's egg tastes better than just a normal Reese's cup. I don't get it. I don't understand. But so yeah, there are certain things based on the season, but my go-to traditionally peanut M&Ms. Great question with it being close to Halloween. Love to know you guys too. If we were all close, we'd be having a big party for it. I'd have everybody's favorite candy there. So as CCD always says, he's not here tonight, but CCD, he goes, whenever GE becomes a millionaire and we have that big house with the 16 was his number, flat screen TVs, you will all be there and we will have your own personal bowl of your favorite candy. We'll hook you up. So great question. I love getting to talk a little bit about you know, non-football things too. We get to learn a little bit about each other. Good stuff. Let's see here. As we slowly wrap up tonight. Clement, we appreciate you, man, 100%. Absolutely. Yeah, NC State, Oklahoma State, TCU is going to be a great game, 100%, Dave. Could not agree more on that. High scoring, as you mentioned. I saw that earlier in the chat. Going to be, 2 great offenses, 2 defenses that really aren't all that good. Oklahoma State has a horrible secondary, so I think TCU is going to be able to light that up pretty well. But, yeah, going to be a fantastic game there. Yes, let's see. Dave says that Utah will upset USC. We will have that prediction out on Thursday. We have our entire post schedule listed in the Discord, and we're going to start doing that every week for you guys, so you kind of know what videos are coming, when they're coming, so you can know, kind of keep your eye out. I get people, like today, I get people all the time. Some guy, within the first 30 seconds of the Week 7 prediction video, I say, hey, we've got 6 ranked versus ranked matchups this week. None of them are on this board. That is because we are producing individual videos for every single one of those games. So an individual video for Penn State, Michigan, an individual video for Tennessee, Bama, and all the way down. And this guy comments and he goes, why isn't Penn State, Michigan on the board? I'm like, did you listen to anything I said? All you have to do is listen the first 30 seconds and you'll get that answer. So I like getting to put out the post schedule out there so that you guys know. So if there's like, why hasn't he talked about this game yet? So it's Thursday. Well, it's because we're putting it out Thursday night or we're putting it out Friday or whatever. So again, a lot of big good videos coming up. Penn State, Michigan's already out. So whoever commented that, it's already out there tonight. Tomorrow's Tennessee, Bama, Utah, USC on Thursday. 2 a day. 2 videos on Thursday, 2 videos on Friday to get your fill in. All day Gridiron Expert content. Let's see. Logan Elliott, good to see you. Said just dropping in to say hey. And I guess we can use that as a conclusion. Just drop in to say bye. Coming in at the last minute. But Logan, we appreciate you, man. Thanks for popping in for a little bit. Hit that like button on your way out if you haven't. But with that, guys, we will call it a night. I think it's been a fantastic stream. I usually try to keep these things around 2 hours. Because believe it or not, we've got 2 more videos. I do. 2 videos to shoot tonight to get those out and ready for you guys for this week. So we've got 2 more videos to release tonight. And we've got some of these bad boys to put out on our website as well. The expert picks, guys. Our week 7 picks for both college and NFL are going to be out on our website by noon tomorrow. By noon tomorrow. We actually have a handful of them already released on our website just so we can take advantage of some of those early spreads. But the expert picks will be released tomorrow. And we would love for you guys to take advantage of those and get to sign up for those and get some great picks. Help us get one step closer to our goal. Again, a goal of 100 expert pick sales and subscribers. We're over halfway there. And we have, y'all have helped us chip away at that. And I really believe we can have that by season's end. I genuinely do. So help us get there. Spread the word. If you don't want them, tell your friend, tell your family, tell your mother, your brother, your sister, your dog. I don't care. Tell somebody to come check out these expert picks and help us reach our goal and help the channel grow and as the community grow, guys. We would really, really appreciate that. But with that, guys, real quick, Max says, I don't eat any sweets, chocolate, ice cream, cakes, or candy bars of any kind. Wow. Dude, kudos to you, man. I'm impressed. That's awesome. I wish I could be like that. I really could. I've gotten better. I used to be a little Debbie kid. Like the snack cakes. I used to eat those religiously. And I slowly cut those out of my diet. It was unhealthy, man. It was bad. But kudos to you, Max. That's really, really impressive. But yeah, wow, that's awesome. And Dave, I have not tried the peanut butter M&Ms, but sounds like I'm going to have to go do that now. I like the peanut M&Ms. Haven't tried the peanut butter ones. Looks like I'm adding something to my list. When I go to the grocery store in the next few days, going to load up some more Halloween candy. Y'all are going to see me blow up. I don't know if it's a good thing, but love it. Love it. Great comments, guys. But with that, guys, thank you again all so much for a fantastic live stream. This is just night 1, baby. Tomorrow, we're right back here, 7 p.m. Central Time. We're talking potential upset. It's Wacky Wednesday. So we ain't wearing a polo. We're wearing something a lot more fun. We're going to talk potential upsets in week 7. Probably going to be mostly a chat live stream. Maybe take a few calls, mostly just dedicated to the chat. A couple different topics we're going to discuss, but the main one, of course, being those upsets. But we're excited to talk about it with you guys. We're excited to get that conversation going with another live stream right back here at 7. But until then, you guys have a fantastic rest of your night. And again, thank you all so much for the support from my man Max Todd to Dave, Aiden, Doggy, the best Savage. Dude, fantastic job. I appreciate you. And thank you so much for calling in. Really enjoyed getting to talk to you. Clement, Benjamin Orman, Logan Elliott. Let's see. My man DM, Scotty, 2016 Cavaliers, Mark TR, Hokey for Life. God, who else we got on here? Stephen Cuffey, Austin Pruitt, SBO Kennels, Eddie Rose, my man South Tech, Sarah Brown, Roman, Eugene, Nick who called in. We got Christian, both mics. My man Anthony, all the way out west in Pac-12 country. Jerry Turner, all of you guys have a fantastic rest of your night. Stay safe out there. And we will see you right back here tomorrow, 7 p.m. Central Time for another fantastic Gridiron live stream with the best community and the best fans in the country, the G